Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Coffee and Takes podcast. I'm very privileged to be joined here today by a great friend of mine, Mr. Vinay Parmar, a lawyer turned entrepreneur, someone with incredible insights to share with you on today's podcast. We're going to dive into his journey, his background, and aim to provide you with as much value as possible. And I'm sure we'll be able to do that today. Vinay, thanks very much for joining me.
Ali, thank you so much for inviting me and having me. I've been following you and your success. I really enjoy your podcasts. And yeah, great to be here.
Appreciate you for coming down. For those of for those people that don't know who you are, I'd love if you can just share your background with them and just a little introduction.
Yeah, sure. So born and bred in London, and growing up, did the things that most people from perhaps my parents coming from India came to this country in the 80s, wanted me to do take part in an opportunity they didn't have called education. And they said, go as far as you can. And at some point I decided to go see how far I can go. And law came my way. I failed probably in every stage and every step of the way, but eventually qualified. And as soon as I did, Ali, I wanted to become an entrepreneur or have multiple sources of income, do something a little bit different, because I realized along the way that doing law, just law, working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday wasn't my thing for the long term. And things have been going really well. Had some setbacks as well, of course, but couldn't be more happy and grateful.
That's incredible to hear. And just touching on your journey in law as well, this was something that you felt you were compelled to pursue through the advice of your parents. Of course, I mean, I come from Libya myself, and obviously as an immigrant to this country, I was also told to go down the traditional path of university, and I was only given 3 choices, really: medicine, law, and engineering. Those were the 3.
The only 3 you can give.
The only 3. I mean, there's nothing else. There's no social sciences. There's no psychology. No disrespect to anyone who's pursuing those fields. But, when you're an immigrant, you only have 3 decisions to make. But with law, did you feel like it was more so your parents that want you to pursue it, or did you have some interest in the subject?
Well, actually, it's a funny story because I wasn't the best student. So I wasn't be able to kind of grasp everything and pass exams. I struggled there. But I used to just do enough to pass. And I remember my teachers, one of my report cards said that if he applied himself, he can do well. But I just wouldn't. I just take the shortcut in everything I would do. And at 16, just after GCSEs, I wanted to become a commercial pilot. And I needed A-level physics for that. And I remember my own teacher said to me, you cannot do physics. And horrible feeling, shot my confidence right down, the most stupid I've ever felt in my life. And then I decided to do law by literally going through, I'll never forget, Epping Forest College, going through the prospectus with my, I think it was a careers advisor. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing physics, so what can I do? Law, is that hard? She goes, no, it's easy, it's just essay writing. Oh, okay, let me do law. Do law, somehow passed, just about passed. My dad said, continue the education. I wanted to join my dad. He's got a few properties, not much, but I wanted to join his business, his enterprise, and just, be like him. And he said, no, I didn't have this opportunity. Go for it. And then like I said, I feel as if I failed my way to qualifying as a criminal solicitor today.
That's incredible to hear. I mean, sometimes one little bit of advice can change the trajectory of your life completely. And obviously in this case, your secondary school teacher or your physics teacher, obviously advising you not to pursue it in A-levels. Obviously at the time, I'm sure that must have damaged your confidence. Looking back, do you feel that, do you harbor any resentment for your teacher telling you can't do it? Or did you feel like, it was a bit of tough love?
Yeah.
And, obviously nowadays, anything you say really is offensive.
Yes.
And, teachers even have to be very careful with what they say these days. Yeah. But did you feel that teacher was looking out for you when he told you that? Or did you feel a little bit of resentment towards them?
Well, definitely at the time, I was like, how could she? It not only hurt, it made me feel really, someone who just didn't know anything, not going to go nowhere. And I'll never forget once I was somewhere and one of my friend's older sister, she's like my sister, she said to me, what's wrong? And I was like, this happened and my teacher said I shouldn't do it. And she gave me so much confidence. She goes, you've got a good head on your shoulders. You can do anything you want. And, good advice. And I don't know why at the time I thought to myself, she's showing confidence in me. And then after doing law, going to university, I pretty much had forgotten about what had happened. But looking back now, I think that was the best thing that ever. I think she was right. Because I remember doing a physics exam and everyone around the class was sharing their results. And everyone's like, 60%, 80%, They come to me, I had like 18%. And I remember the whole class, one boy said, everyone says nothing. It was just horrible feeling. So, yes, in answer to the question, at the time, no, I wasn't happy. It really hurt. I was a really sensitive person as well, by the way. But in hindsight, thank you. I think now I'm of the opinion, of the view that everything happens for the best. Not only everything happens for a reason, everything happens for the best. So I'm glad that happened, and I wish I wasn't so sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you need people in your life that can keep it real with you. Yeah. And you need people to tell you that your strengths are probably suited elsewhere. I'm all for finding out. If you take an exam and it doesn't work out and you take it again, which was my situation in A-levels. Yeah. I did biology, chemistry and geography.
Wow, chemistry,
it was a tough one. It was a tough one. I didn't do well in my first year of A-levels. And then the second year I didn't do well, and I retook again after that. And even after I retook, I didn't get the grades. I ended up with a C and 2 Ds. Oh, yeah. So the C was in geography and then the 2 Ds was in biology and chemistry. At that point I realized, okay, perhaps this avenue isn't going to be the most prosperous for me because maybe my strengths are better suited in a different discipline, or my intelligence is expressed in a different way. I know a lot of people say that these days, without even trying. I'm not for exams, but they've never taken an exam. But I went down that route and I didn't get the grades. And then I realized, okay, now I can at least do something else, knowing that I tried my best, to make one avenue work. So looking back, it was a very interesting experience for me. So you went to university. Yeah. What was the university experience like studying law? I know it's a very intensive degree. Did you feel overwhelmed with it when you were studying? Did you feel that at any point, did you feel like, maybe I've made the wrong decision?
Well, I did initially because I did law and accounting.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just thinking, why did I do the accounting side of it? It was a BA joint major and I had to drop out of there. And then I went to Middlesex University to do a joint major in law and business. Okay. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a business. Do business either with my dad or I'll do my own business. And doing law at university, it was much easier, first of all, than A-levels.
Right.
And again, I just about passed. I think I had to resit one of the modules. It's only when I had to do the law conversion, because I didn't do LLB, at Kingston University, that was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do. But
so what's the difference? Is it between the LLB and what's the other one?
So an LLB is the actual law degree.
Oh, it's the degree, right.
I got the joint major.
Okay.
So I needed to do a conversion course because that was the route at the time to qualify as a barrister or solicitor. So I had to do the law convert. It was called CPE, Common Professional Exams, or GDL, Graduate Diploma in Law. It's a 1 year intense course of a 3 year course, but condensed into 1 year.
Okay.
So it was very difficult. But after I'd done that, and again, resitting, failed it and resat, passed, I was like, okay, if I've done this, I can do exams now somehow. Yeah. Magically.
And was it more so examination based, or was it more so sort of essay focused?
It was all paper. It was all written. It was all, examination. It was only after that I went to law school at Bristol. I did what's called the BBC, the barrister's course. Then, some of it's practical, almost half of it's practical. And I done good in practical, but I never done good in theory. And I had to sit one of my theory papers there again. So it took me a while to qualify. But I don't forget once my friend, because I was working at the time, he said to me, you're going to qualify when you're like over 30. And I was like, oh God, yeah. But once I did qualify, no one ever asked me how long it took you to get there and how old you were and all this. So thankfully, once you're done, you're done.
And how long was it in total then, all of the studying?
So 3 year degree. I mean, I'm going to exclude all the resits.
Yeah.
Because it will take too long. 3 year degree, 1 year conversion course, and then I did it part-time law school. So oh my God, 6, 7 years, but then it'd probably be 7 years because of the resits. But for the last 2 years, I was working full-time in a firm. So that counted towards experience.
Right.
So it kind of overlapped. But I think on average, it takes at least 3 to 5 on average. But in my case, I did one of the last ones part-time. So you're talking a good half a decade quite easily to qualify in this kind of industry.
This podcast is very kindly sponsored by the gentleman at Glownode. If you are an aspiring trader who would like to gain access to capital to further progress your trading career, take a look at Glownode. They provide you with several options when it comes to funding. Once you pass your assessment, your evaluation phase with them, you have access to capital ranging from $10,000 all the way up to $200,000 in funding. I've dropped the details down in the link below. And obviously the avenues that you can take upon completing all of your qualifications. What avenues can someone expect to go down?
So once you do the exams, you get to a point, because it's changed now. Since I did it, it's probably changed now. But you need to do something called the LPC to become a solicitor, or it's called BTPC, the barrister's course, to become a barrister. Mm-hmm. The exams are not actually sometimes the challenging part. It's the training or the pupillage that you need afterwards. That's the difficult bit, because from there, they're looking, when they're going through applications, they're looking for the ones who've got the best grades. Mm-hmm. And that's where I used to fall back on, because I didn't have any good grades. So that's where I used to have a bit of a problem there. So I had to cross-qualify to become a solicitor because I couldn't get pupillage. I wanted to become a barrister at some stage. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I went down the solicitor's route, because then I could do what I do now, which is consulting, freelance solicitor. Mm-hmm. So kind of part-time, which works for me because I've got other businesses.
And from what I know, obviously it's broken down into various different aspects of law. There's family law, there's criminal law. Yeah. Did you have an idea as to which avenue you wanted to take? I mean, was there something that you were leaning more towards?
Not really. I mean, I just, you've seen one too many movies and you're thinking, all right, I want to be rich, I want to, kill it in court. Yeah. And what happened was, once I did the exam, you kind of get like, there's contract law, there's public law, there's criminal law. Everyone found criminal law interesting. Okay. There's commercial law and all those other laws.
What's the most lucrative?
Well, this is what they said to us at law school. They said an average earning of a criminal barrister is $60,000 per annum. And the average earnings of a commercial barrister is $260,000 per annum.
Okay.
Massive gap.
So is that when you, for example, defend a company against a lawsuit, things like that?
Exactly, yes. So, you look at big companies, commercial contracts and things like that. Now, I didn't go that route, unfortunately, because at the time, all I wanted to do was just qualify somehow. So when I was working part-time, I worked for one of my dad's law firms who was doing his property buying and selling. My dad got me in there. I worked there for a few months for free. And the secretary said, there's another firm, a criminal law firm who needs people. Mm-hmm. And I went for an interview there and I fell into criminal law. So I've been with criminal law ever since. Mm-hmm. But if I had a choice, I would have gone into commercial. Although, because my cousin, she is a lawyer. She does commercial law for one of the top law firms. And she tells me her lifestyle and how much paperwork and stuff. And, she wasn't as happy. So I'm actually glad in a sense, because in criminal law, there's a lot of more, I'm actually criminal defense, there's a lot more freedom. Yeah, yeah. And I can imagine, obviously, at that sort of level as well, you probably get paid as a consultant, as a contractor, right? I imagine. So it's not really a salaried position per se, but do they pay based on the amount of hours it will take? How do they break it down when? There's so many. You could be working for a firm, which is more salary based, and then you could get bonuses, which are huge, or commissions on certain cases. You could be a freelancer, or you could be someone who just puts cases through, or there's a lot of, in terms of, how you can, bill your clients, you put it through the firm or you're billing them directly. The firm takes this percent. There's so much. It's too big of an area to kind of break it down on. But me, I've never been, I couldn't do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, salary based. I just couldn't see myself doing that. Yeah, that actually leads me on to the next question as well. So once you started working, obviously getting into the routine of a 9 to 5, what made you start thinking of entrepreneurship as an avenue that you could explore? I know it's a very broad word, entrepreneurship. I mean, that you could be an entrepreneur in various different industries. Did you ever feel like, okay, I need to be my own boss? I can't see myself continuing down this road for very long. I mean, I had an inkling deep down thinking that, because, I always say that we get financial education, not from teachers or professors. We get financial education from parents, because we pretty much do what our parents do, because we've grown up seeing them doing what they do. So my dad was already a businessman. He was actually a market trader for 10 years, bought properties in the 90s and then retired quite shortly afterwards in a few years.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to be some kind of business owner. But what happened was in 2011, whilst I was a trainee, I was at the gym and a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a few years just said to me, do you want to make some money? And I was like, yeah, who doesn't want to make money? I was like, yeah, I mean, I was a trainee, I was earning minimum wage, so, money wasn't the best. And he said, come to my house, I'll show you what I'm doing. And, I thought it was drug dealing, to be honest. I was in East London, come to my house, I'll show you. I was like, okay, he's going to show me the stash and whatever. Anyway, I got down there and he took out a pen and paper and he showed me a good 2 hours plus presentation on paper. And once I saw that presentation, I knew, right, because he showed me something called the cash flow quadrants of Robert Kiyosaki from the book. And from there, I was sold from that point.
Mm-hmm. Care to explain what the cash flow quadrant is?
Yes. So Robert Kiyosaki, self-made entrepreneur, real estate giant. And he said that he wrote books, loads of books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in the book, he talks about his experiences. And to cut a long story short, the cash flow quadrants is where cash flows from in 4 quadrants. So there are only 4 legal ways to earn money. And the 4 the first is employee, so that's an E, you work for somebody. Second is self-employed or small business. So those are the 2 categories. And he said, 95% or whatever, 96, 97% are on that side. Then you've got the other side, which is the big business owners and investors. He goes, that's just the 5%. That's where your money works harder for you than you do for your money. Mm-hmm. So once I saw that, the fact that when you're an employee or a small business owner, you have to trade time for money. So, you work 8 hours, you get paid for 8 hours. If you've got your business, you may work harder in your business. You work 14, 15 hours, you get paid for those 14, 15 hours, but you're still trading time for money. Mm-hmm. And money is limited. Sorry, time is limited. You're trading time for money. Yep. Time is limited. But on the other side, the owners, they do not trade time for money. They leverage time for money. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be doing this 95% for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I need a way out of here. And that's what just changed everything for me.
That's fantastic to hear. I remember actually coming across this book as well when I was 19. It has to be, I think, one of the best-selling financial self-help books of all time. Absolutely. I think it's sold millions of copies. But yeah, I mean, just seeing that quadrant, it's a very simple, diagram. But then when you look at it, you're like, wow, I'm here. I'm on the left-hand side. I'm a wagee. Essentially, I'm trading time for money. And, I think it really hits you when you look at your payslip. The jobs that I've had where I've put in ridiculous hours and then I get my payslip at the end of the month and I look at it and I'm like, wow, look how much they're taking. I'm already broke, and they're taking almost half of it. Yeah. And it just makes you realize this isn't and then it validates what you read in the book, because then it's like, well, I've done the job thing, and it's not working out. So, I mean, I must be open-minded to other ways of making money. I always talk about being open-minded as a skill to work on, because a lot of people, they just shut down information because they feel that someone's trying to do them dirty, or they believe all these guys are just selling you snake oil, or they're out to get you or take advantage of you. But the way I see it is, I'd love to know from your perspective as well. I've found that people that are really successful are often more eager to help you out and share that information with you than people who, aren't doing as well. Obviously, if someone isn't doing well, it's not a good person to learn from. But someone who is doing well usually wants to extend a helping hand and help, and, offer that information. How have you found it over the years, meeting people that are super successful? Have you found that they were always keen to share their knowledge with you?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said super successful. It's the ones who are really successful, really on top of their game. And that might vary from person to person. Someone that you consider, I would like to exchange places with them. They're always eager to help, and they like to help. And sometimes it's probably one word it comes down to. It's ego. Like you said, you have to be open-minded, and it's a skill. I like when you said that, because it's so true. Because you have to kind of, one of my mentors said, it's about recognizing, actually. Recognize that somebody has what it is that you want. So why would you not listen to this person if they're willing to help, which they are, the super successful ones, And sometimes you might have to pay for that. They might charge you for a course or something along those lines. And sometimes it might be free, whichever it is, which is conducive to you at the time. But when you ask them questions and you have that kind of attitude that you want to learn, they would like that. They can see that you're eager, and then that would make them want to help you more. Whereas, if we come across some people who are a bit arrogant, or, they feel that, well, I've done it, I don't want to help you, or, you can't do what I do, then that puts you off. And, obviously then you're going to just say, well, I can't do what they do. You're not getting the help. And sometimes you're so fixated on what you've done in life, which is great. We should be happy and grateful. But if you don't have the attitude that I would like to learn more, I would like to grow more, then you're not going to go out and ask for help, are you? You're just going to say, well, I know it all, and that's the end of it, and this is what life's all about. Where I just think that, I think we both share that. We like to learn, observe, ask questions, and come from that attitude, and, things happen.
Absolutely, I fully agree. And to touch on what you mentioned earlier about, when you grow up, you learn from your parents so many things. But one of the things that you learn is how they approach money, the conversations around money. Some families are fearful of money, and so they hold on to it, and they're terrified of stretching a little bit outside of their means or taking a risk.
Yes.
And that is something that kids take on board subconsciously. And when they grow older, their fears of money become very apparent. They become afraid of taking risks, of starting a new challenge, of buying a course, because they remember when they were really young, their parents had to really make sure that every decision was thought through. And to an extent, that's good. But I think, some people grow up in an environment where there's just absolute fear around money. You mentioned your dad was an entrepreneur. What kind of conversations did he have with you around money when you were growing up?
Well, unfortunately, my dad never had a conversation with me, because my dad was one of those typical Indian Punjabi dads who would just I felt that, there was some resentment towards my dad, because no matter what I did, he was never, he would never give me a pat on the back or say, well done. So my dad was very different to when it came with me. If I brought my friends over or my cousins, he would treat them more like a son than me. So it was a bit weird in that sense. But, I always think that people, you're going to do what your parents do rather than what they say. So he never had the conversation with me, but his actions would be in a certain way. So in a nutshell, my dad's philosophy was, everyone's racist, the government's out to get you, taxes are crazy, they don't help you. And, you carry that on. And you may not say those things, but you sometimes feel it inside, and then you treat authority, or, you have a certain viewpoint. And that was hindering me big time. Because now if you ask me, I think, this is a great country, and what we get from here is, we don't get that in other countries. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it can't be improved upon 100%, it can be. But, from what I learned from my dad is that he's very hardworking, very honest. But what he would do is, he would take risks at the time. When I remember being young, he'd buy properties. I remember he said to me he bought some properties on his credit card. And, he was doing things. I'll never forget that some of my dad's friends and my dad's, our family would say, I don't know what your dad's doing. But after he had done that risk, later on, they'll be like, your dad got lucky. He was just very lucky at the right time, at the right moment, basically justifying. So I've got to hand it to my dad. I love that about him. He done well. He's able to retire off those properties. And when I ask him now that I want to do this, he'd always say to me, no, don't do that. Just stick to, just get a regular income. Don't take risks. Be secure, be safe, hold on to your money. And I'm thinking, well, Dad, you never did that when I was growing up. When you were my age, you were doing, you were taking risks, Dad. And that's why, so it's a really weird phenomenon, my dad.
Yeah.
But I do think, however my dad was, it was a blessing in disguise, because even though I was holding resentment, he was not the dad that I wanted, but he was the dad that I needed, for sure.
That's powerful. Yeah. I think, obviously there's people have different experiences growing up with their fathers, and obviously around the conversation of money. I think it's slightly different when you have immigrant parents.
Yes.
Because they immigrated here which was the ultimate risk, leaving behind everybody back home and the life that they had. And then it's a completely different approach. And I can completely sympathize with the approach of let's be safe and secure, because, we're in an environment that's foreign to us. Let's stick together. Let's put our money together. Let's do this. Let's do that. So in a sense, I feel like the second generation have more of a permission to go out there and be bold. So when I look at my father and the risk he took coming here, even though I didn't go down the academic route, which he went down, he did his bachelor's, master's, PhD, and I didn't go to university. So I'm the black sheep of the family. But when I look at obviously what he's done, he's allowed me to get into a position where I can afford to make bolder decisions than he did, because I'm a second generation in this country. My dad came here, and then obviously I was born in Libya, so I came with him technically. But being his son and growing up in the UK, and seeing the opportunities that are available, because I remember sharing Rich Dad, Poor Dad with him, having that conversation at the age of 19 and showing him the cash flow quadrant. And I almost felt like maybe he took some offense to the fact that he was in the employee section. And he's done very well for himself, and he's in a career that he really enjoys, which is fantastic, which is rare. A lot of people resent the environment that they're in. But I remember having that conversation with him around money and everything, and people that haven't done what it is that you're looking to do will always shut it down. Either due to a lack of knowledge. They say ignorance is bliss. It's not bliss. Sometimes ignorance can cost you.
It's damaging.
It's damaging, exactly. Jim Rohn used to say, if you think the bill for trying is high, wait until you get the bill for not trying. Not knowing something can put you in a very vulnerable position. If you're unaware of what's happening around you, environment changes, and you don't make those adjustments, you could be taken out. So, I remember having that conversation. He was very defensive, saying, no, a job is still the best way forward. And, my approach now to jobs and entrepreneurship is, I think it's important to have a job and be good at your job as you are building something else.
Absolutely.
And I think even if you're not a full-fledged entrepreneur who wants to lead his own company, because I believe that not everybody's cut out to be the CEO of a company. Some people don't like to delegate tasks to others. Some people don't want the responsibility. However, it's the best time ever, in my opinion, to have another income on the side. Obviously, content creation enables you to get attention around a certain skill set that you've acquired or a passion of yours. So that's opened many doors for a lot of people. So I just remember having that conversation and him telling me, no, stick to a job. And my approach has definitely evolved over time. But what do you think of somebody who's in a job that they don't enjoy at the moment? Has a few ideas as to how they could make money, but is overwhelmed because there's so many ways of making money nowadays. It's almost like, where do I start? So what would you say to someone like that?
Well, I think first of all is, at different stages of your life. So I think when because I'm married now, 2 young children, I wouldn't take some of the risks that I did, before being married and having children. But I did take risks, and I still do take risks, because I don't think, not taking a risk is risky.
Yes.
So I think just to find somebody, whether it be online or in person, I think in person is having someone in your city, maybe in your country, that you can visit, that you can speak to, is crucial. Just find someone who has what it is that you want. And when you find that person, listen to them. And like we said before, they may charge you for it, and you may have to pay, because there are great courses out there. There's great things that we can learn. It's not necessary that you have to pay them, but there are options to pay out there.
Well, some people watch my videos and, they feel that, well, there's no point of paying because everything's on YouTube for free. What would you say to people like that? Well,
it's interesting, because you can go to Google and type in anything. You could type in how to get a six-pack. You could type in how to be a millionaire. It's all there, actually. But taking action, that's a whole different ballgame. And that's why you need the mentor, the coach, because if you have something called an accountability partner, that's crucial. Could be at the gym, could be in business, could be, other areas. But finding someone who has what it is that you want, and, like you said, because they may watch your content, they may watch your videos, and they think, well, I've got everything that I can learn from, yourself. But there's obviously so much more. But maybe the level where they're at, that may be enough for them, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But whilst you're working, finding someone who's on top of their game, then using your evenings and weekends to fulfill that passion, that desire to to take some time to learn. I'm not saying every weekend and every evening, once you finish your job, you've got to be bang on it and, all that time, as you said. No, I mean, take it in your, have some kind of balance there. But I know one thing is that people who have done really well, at some stage in their life, balance is not really there. It's weighed heavily. They're so passionate. You could spend 15, 16, 18 hours on something they love doing for a small period, and then it may go into a balance later on.
Yep.
But someone who's working in 9 to 5 and cannot leave their job, stay at your job, but find someone who's top of their game and do exactly what they say.
That's very powerful stuff, and I fully agree. And, on the subject of paying for courses, this is something we've both done over the years.
Yep.
And I think you take it more seriously when you put money on the line, when you have skin in the game.
Yes.
I mean, look, yes, you can learn a lot of information online for free and definitely be proactive and do the best you can do with the situation that you're in. Don't say, well, when I get the money, then I'll learn about this thing, because you can learn some stuff right now for free. But then, as Vinay just mentioned right now, when it comes to getting that specialist knowledge, because everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
Someone might be here in terms of a subject and their knowledge of it. Someone else might be here. This person needs more work, so they need more hours than this person. Some people are just fast learners.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that took a bit of time to get to grips with trading. When I first got into the FX market, I was like, what's all this stuff? I'm not someone who, clearly through me retaking A-levels twice, who just gets things quickly and is able to translate that knowledge quickly. I needed to review again and again and again, and I've got so many notepads that are full of, notes and diagrams and all sorts of stuff. I had to do that for my sake. And if I had a mentor who was one-to-one with me, that would have massively accelerated my success. Because sometimes it's not what you learn, it's unlearning some stuff as well, because you could be learning the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue with free information, is there's so much free information. Sometimes it's conflicting.
Yeah.
So when you have someone that says, hey, don't learn this, focus on this, it's the clarity that you've paid for. It's the structure. Okay, now I'm following one path which has worked. I need to drown out all the noise. But I'd love to know some of some of the courses that you've taken and how they've impacted you.
Well, I think I spent at least 6 figures on, including my law degree, law exams, on personal self-development. And I've done so many things, from social media marketing courses, Tony Robbins courses, Bob Proctor course, Forex trading course, hypnosis course. I mean, there's so many. There's probably more. I've probably forgotten about them. And they've all been great because I've always learned something from them. I may not have gone down the route of becoming, whatever it's, social media marketer or something, but I've always learned. And some of these courses cost, I've had to pay tens and thousands of pounds.
How did that feel? When you had to put that much money on the line, did you feel anxious? Like, what if this doesn't work out? Or the first time you invested a big sum into a course, was it a little bit nerve-wracking?
Of course, yes. And I'll never forget, I put a quote on my social media that says, if you're not doing something that scares you, you're not growing, or your dreams are not big enough, something like that. And I was thinking, this is scaring me, because a lot of money, especially for the one course I paid over £20,000 for. I was like, whoa, this is a lot of money now. But I was earning good money as a lawyer anyway. So I thought, I've got the money. And at that time I wasn't married, didn't have any children. So I was like, I'm going to do it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. I mean, I don't want to live life of regret. I don't want to have 10, 20, 30 years later, I wish I would have done that. My life could have turned out different. So I want to go for it. But like I said, at the time I was earning money, so I could do that. And there was times where I couldn't even pay, £1,000 for a course. But then I had to do, whatever it took. Maybe I have to do installments. But like you said, when you feel the pinch of something, you're going to take it more seriously. You're going to give it much more than someone who's got it for free. So it's absolutely crucial that sometimes, you got to feel the pinch of something. And it may not be investment into a course. It may be like I was part of a network marketing company and you've got to buy the products. Once you buy the products, whatever they are, you feel the pinch, you're going to go out, you're going to do what they say. It's not going to be, free information. I'll do it when I want to do it. Okay, I'll do it later on. You feel the pinch, you're going to go out and you're going to make it happen. And that's the attitude you get.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. It's so important to put your money where your mouth is. Because if you have the audacity to say, I want to live a remarkable life, I want to be able to wake up whenever I want, travel whenever I want, with whoever I want, You know, if you have the audacity to say that, well, then you got to back that up with action. You can't talk left and walk right.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, courses and putting a lot of money on the line has definitely shaken me up. It's changed me. Yeah. And I think people need to look at it a little bit differently as well, because university degrees cost 30, 40,000 for 3 years. But 5,000 for a course is, for some reason, to a lot of people, absolutely terrifying, which doesn't make sense, because most people end up in degrees that they didn't want to study.
Yep.
I think even after they graduate, 86% of people are in a line of work that they didn't want to end up being in. So it just makes you think you've spent £40,000 to do something you don't want to do anyways. So why not spend £5,000 to do something you want to do? You know?
So true, because it's just because it's so reinforced in society, like our parents. University, get a degree, you know, and forget job. I mean, you know, for our family, it's more like getting a marriage proposal.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I mean, it's that serious. Yeah,
is that level. So I think you're absolutely right, because we pay all that for degree, but when it comes to, you know, a course, because I never forget once I did a course, and you know, the course cost, I think it was $2,500 for 3 days, and when you got there, they kind of upsell you. So you've got to do this, and it ended up becoming 2,500 went to 5,000, and I was sitting next to somebody. And they said, this is a scam. This is definitely a scam, because look, they've done this. And I was thinking, you know what, this is not a positive person, because I need to find the good in it. And fine, they've got their selling techniques or whatever. And it would have been great if they shared that in the beginning, fine. But I want to look for the good in this. And, you know, it ended up costing me even more than that. And to this day, people say to me, why did you do that? I don't regret it, because it was such a great experience. I learned so much. And it benefits me till today. But it's about having the positive mindset. Yeah. See, people will have that 30,000 paid degree, and even if it doesn't go to plan, that because it was so reinforced by society, they would think it's okay. You know, okay, maybe I wouldn't have done it, but they kind of still, they don't gun it down and hold resentment towards it for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So I think having a positive attitude and taking a risk on a course, on a business. I mean, I've had so many businesses. I don't remember where I was. I was speaking to somebody and I said, yeah, I had a car wash. They said, you had a car wash? I thought you were a lawyer. I go, yeah, I've done a few businesses. A lot of them failed. Yeah. But some of them were really successful. And, you know, it was only the failures that got me there. Yeah. So thank God for failures.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't also focus on what else you learn from building your own business. It's a character development experience. Big time. Even if you don't get a financial return, you get a return in a different way. Yeah. You know, I was in network marketing for a good 6-7 years, and I always give network marketing credit for allowing me to practice my speaking skills, because there were so many events where I had to speak in front of a large group of people, and even events where I wasn't the delegated speaker, but I volunteered. I said, let me do it, you know, because I knew that would improve me. Yeah. You know, me throwing myself in the deep end. I've still got pictures of when I was 19, speaking in front of 100 people in a hotel in London, you know, for a network marketing company that I was with. And I just look back at myself and think, you know what, even though I'm not in that company anymore, that was such a transformative experience. 100%. And it wasn't a fruitful financial experience, I'll be honest with you. I think I made about £300 in like 3 years, or £400. So technically it was a disaster financially, but what it taught me in terms of people skills, communication skills, sales skills, you know, overcoming objections. I mean, it was incredible. And, you know, when someone says, Ali, should I pursue network marketing or should I do this? I always tell them, you know, especially if you're 19, 20, 21, do as much as you can, because even if it doesn't work out, you learn a lot. Yeah. You know, you don't learn when you don't try. Yeah. You know, so you have a choice. You can either be a spectator or a player. And I didn't want to be a spectator because I didn't want to lose respect for myself being on the sidelines. Yeah. You know, who's talked about in the world of sports? It's the players that are active, not the ones that don't play the game. You know, we look at people like Ronaldo still playing at the age of 38, almost 39 now, still scoring in goal. We respect that, you know, that longevity, still in the game. But, you know, going back to what we were saying earlier about people that have the most to say, it's always those that aren't doing anything. 100%. You know, and they're focusing on what it would cost you as opposed to what it would do in terms of how it would grow you, really. You know, obviously, Jim Rohn, you know, used to say, you know, when it comes to the cost, think of the cost of not doing it. You know, of the bill for not trying. It's always harder, because then years will go by and you'll be in the exact same situation. You know, still broke, still behind on your promises, still complaining. And I believe I told you this before about the guy that I used to work with when I was 21 in a call center. I believe he was in his 40s at the time. He was there for 7 years. I was there for 3 months, and I was sat next to him, and he was just complaining about the job every day. And I was in that job for about 9 months, and then I left, and he was still there when I left. But I was just thinking to myself, this is someone that isn't looking to help himself, because that's the only way life will change, is when you decide enough's enough.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, I know you came from a background of law, and so for you it wasn't so much being financially broke that caused you to desire a better life, but what was the turning point for you that made you feel that I want to live a remarkable life, I don't want to live an average life?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because there was a time where I did go completely broke, and there was a time where I'd go to the cash machine and just pray, 10 or 20 pound will come out, because it got so bad. Because what happened was, I was a trainee, and as a trainee, you're getting paid minimum wage, because they know you need the firm to help you qualify. So I was kind of, I was in a position where finances were difficult, and I was driving this sports car, which cost me so much on fuel, but I loved it.
What car was it?
Subaru Impreza.
Subaru, come on.
Yes, I was one of those rude boys with the tins and the Saab and the dump valve. And
you have to, I think, with a Subaru.
It was a rocket on the road. I loved that car. And I don't forget, I was looking at my wages, and I realised half the money goes on the car. It was like £400 on fuel. And then the running costs, because it was always going to say, I'm upgrading the exhaust or this or that. So, then I was earning from the firm, and then, you got a social life as well. And me and my girlfriend, if you want to go out, or if you want to go out for a meal. And it was just like, I can't be doing this. And I'm looking at the other lawyers who are in the firm, and then the lives they're living. I was like, I can't be doing this. So, had like an epiphany moment. I thought, let me stop doing this. Let me focus on, entrepreneurship, multiple sources of income. But then you've got, you're young, you've got no experience, you don't know what's going on, you're excited. But along the way, I realized that, I want more out of life. I think there's more to life than working for somebody for the rest of your life. And I don't know what it is, but I had this strong desire in me. And I think because when we were young, my dad, he never gave me any money. So my mum used to give me some money sometimes, but my dad was like, no, my dad's the kind of person,
Tough love.
if I called him up and say hello, like, what do you need? Or what do you want? And then put the phone down or whatever. He won't even say bye to me. It's a crazy phenomenon. But so I think I felt lack there. And, he himself, as I remember, having times when he went completely broke, but then things would be going great at one point. And then, you got to have a bit of tough skin for that.
That's so important, yeah.
So going along the way, I thought I need to do something. And I got excited, joined a network marketing company. But just like you said, for 3 years, I probably made $3,000 in 3 years, but the product cost me $3,000 as well. So I didn't make any money, but I learned so much. And from there, I thought to myself, personal self-development is the name of the game. Then I started to invest in courses, and I went back to law, actually. Started doing more cases. I had a criminal law agency, and I was working freelance for different firms. And, the journey is really, 1 minute things are incredible. The next minute I'm like, whoa, things are down. But I learned so much. But I think the desire came from a young age, like seeing my family, and everything was, kind of, whatever it is, they're going to go for the lowest. The car's going to be the lowest. The clothes are going to be, the restaurants, if we did go to a restaurant, it would be, my dad's idea of a meal out for the family would be the local chip shop or something, bringing back veggie burgers for everyone. And that was the extent of it.
I don't know if your dad was the same, but my dad used to always brag about how cheap his shoes were. I found these on sale. He'd almost rub it into me like, you want all this new stuff?
It's a bragging
point. I got this for £10.
It's a bragging point.
Yeah.
The fact that they got it so cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'd be like, a bit of a competition.
Yeah.
Well, I got this for this much, you got it for this much. And,
see, these shoes here, 12 years I've had them. It's like, Dad, they're almost, they're almost withered away now, It's tragic. But yeah, I think, that affects you as well, because then you grow up thinking, I need to spend the least amount as possible.
Yes.
As I matured over the years, and I made some stupid financial decisions early on in my 20s, I bought things that I shouldn't have bought, financed a lot of things I shouldn't have financed. But, my approach to money has definitely changed. However, one thing I would say that, is very important to bear in mind for every guy watching this is, you have to respect yourself. And so want the very best for yourself. Obviously, be sensible. So when it comes to clothes and cars, Cars are the most dangerous thing because, you know, you had the Subaru, I had a BMW 325i, which was also a financial strain on me. It was costing me like $400 a month to lease. And, you know, I remember every month was just stressful because I at the time, I wasn't in a stable working environment. So I was an entrepreneur, I was in network marketing, you know, money would sometimes drop. You know, I had to work a couple of part-time jobs just to keep me going. And so having that car was just anxiety inducing because if you were 1 or 2 payments behind, they'll come and take the car away. But, you know, when it comes to taking yourself seriously, dressing well is very important. Don't be cheap when it comes to dressing well. Take yourself seriously because people will take you seriously. If you smell good, people gravitate towards you. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. You know, so there are ways where I am different to sort of my father's upbringing. My father's very conservative, you know, hold on to your money, save it. That's something I should have done early on in my 20s. But my approach now is definitely invest in yourself as much as possible within reason. So don't put yourself in a financial mess just to do so. But, you know, going back to what you were saying, really, for a lot of people, the uncertainty of tomorrow is crippling. It prevents them from even trying. But what if I do this and then tomorrow, you know, they're worried about crossing the bridge before getting there. You know, but what if the bridge isn't stable? You haven't even started yet. You know, what would you say to someone who's got these grand plans? Maybe they know what they want to pursue. They've got a business in mind. They've spoken about it. They're that guy in the family who always mentions the business idea but never executes. But they're so worried about, you know, the business failing. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, my mentors always said that, you know, worrying is negative goal setting.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because whenever you worry, you're giving so much attention, thoughts, and energy to the things that can go wrong, and you start to think of things that can go wrong. So, and then guess what? Whatever you're looking for in life generally tends to appear. So, I'm not saying, you know, put your house on the line, you know, and really go out there and think this is going to be the best thing because you've been a bit impractical. So, within reason, you're going to have to put yourself out there to do a business or to take whatever journey you're going to take in an entrepreneurship kind of space. But whatever it is, you got to have, I think it goes back to what we said about follow people who have done what you've done. Follow people who have been where you've been, but have the results that you want today. And they're going to tell you what they've done. And pretty much they're going to say, we've had to take risks. We had to this, you know, failure happened. But the thing is, you've got to take that risk. And if you don't take that risk, it's going to be, you know, then you know what's going to happen. You're going to, you know, however many years, whatever you've been doing in your life, that's just going to continue. That pattern is not going to be broken. So think about, you know, our parents who are coming to this country, they broke the mold, isn't it? They were coming to a foreign country. Then, you know, they became entrepreneurial. My dad, you know, started doing business from as soon as he got here. And if we don't do that with the luxury and being that second generation in this country, we've got everything to, you know, one thing I've always thought to myself, always had, is I've always got something to fall back on. I've always had that kind of security blanket, which sometimes hinders me as well because you've got that security blanket. So you don't go all out in what you want to do. But that helped me. And at that time, you know, you kind of had to work with yourself. So I worked with myself then. I thought, you know what's the worst that could happen? You know, I'm living with parents. I'm born in this country. You know, this country is amazing. It looks after you in any way possible. So why not go out there and do what I can do and just give it a go? Because if I give it a go and I fail, at least I've tried. And if I don't give it a go, I'm going to live in regret.
Absolutely.
And if I live in regret, that's just going to be the worst. I mean, I love reading these social media posts where, I don't know if you've seen them, but like they do like pensioners and they ask them, I think people in old age pension homes, you know, what are the regrets? And they start listing some of them. I'm like, my God, I don't have any of these regrets. I don't want to have these regrets in my 90s or 100s or whatever, 80s, 90s, 100s. So you got to go out there and do, like I said, within that kind of reason. You know, if I've got a family and I've got kids, I'm not going to put my house on mortgage and for this amazing business opportunity. Because I've been taught some lessons in life, some big lessons in life as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Overextending can come back to bite you, but just because it's a little bit anxiety inducing, it's not a sign to not do it. If anything, that's a sign to do it. Because it means you're stepping out of the comfort zone. And obviously we know that the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. And, you know, as you mentioned, you don't want to live, you know, a long life and then reflect on your life and just think, wow, I lived the same life, same year 75 times.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do anything out of the box. I didn't do anything, you know, that stretched me. I just lived a safe. And Jim Rohn said this actually. He said, yeah, you may live to 100, you know, but what kind of life is that where you're safe in the corner?
Yeah.
You know, you're fed the meals that you want. And I mean, just because you live longer, it doesn't mean you live a better life. Some people live a shorter life, but it's a lot more action packed. You know, they did a lot more. You know, Kobe Bryant is a good example of this. You know, obviously he passed away, I believe, 2-3 years ago. But what a life he had when he was alive. You know, so many incredible people who sadly had a short life, but it was packed. I mean, they lived basically 3 different lives within one. So yeah, that's incredibly powerful. And you know, in terms of the people that you know learn from, obviously you mentioned that, you know, observe what they've done and how they've done it. Obviously the world's changing rapidly now because of technology and social media, and some of these mentors that you learn from were from a different time. I mean, first of all, share some of the biggest influences on you in terms of business figures, entrepreneurs, who you learned a lot from, and, you know, when you discovered them, and also how the dynamic has changed now because of technology. You know, the people that are now making money, who are you observing now, and just your thoughts on that.
I mean, I've mentioned some of them already, but people like Bob Proctor, who's passed away now, he was one of the greatest of all, when I say of all time, of my time. He was even before my time. But Bob Proctor and people like, you know, Tony Robbins of today's maybe age, and then you've got obviously Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' old mentor, Kevin Trudeau. But these people, because they come, you know, the ones who are here, they may do an event. So you can learn from them from, you know, a distance. You can learn through their audios, through their books, through going to an event. And there are some people, like, for example, when I go gym, I would be listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's audios or like a podcast, whatever he's done. Someone's made something on YouTube of his, you know, quote. You know, I listen to Sylvester Stallone, you know, Rocky, little clips from Rocky, Conor McGregor, or Rich Piano, or Dwayne Johnson. I mean, there's so many in that space, and I'll listen to them, you know, the same thing again and again and again. But I think one of the biggest things has been finding mentors who are from your town or city, you could say, or country, that you can sit down with. Because I feel I've learned more from mentors who I can sit down and have a conversation with, like we're having now, than kind of distant learning. Because that's great for, you know, motivation and inspiration. But, you know, motivation and things, you know, you can go up or down. But when you're with a mentor who's here with you, that's probably made one of the biggest differences. And there are so many. So, you know, I have, like, you know, business mentors, and I have spiritual mentors. Then I have, you know, audios or mentors who speak different languages. Because if I hear something in Hindi or Punjabi, that would hit me more here and have more of an effect for me to take action, rather than hearing it in, you know, a different language, like English or something. But in answer to your question, I think, you know, unfortunately, motivation goes up and down. It's consistency and discipline. But I'm always on the lookout. So, for example, I was in London a few days ago, and a friend of mine who's a PT as well, you know, I go, let's go gym, because I know just by going gym with him, I'm gonna be in his presence. And if you're receptive to what he's doing, you observe, you're like, he is doing something so different to 95% of people in the gym. And then when I go to meet my business mentor, he'll be doing things and saying things, and his actions will be different than 95% of people in his space. And I'm thinking, no wonder they're the top 5% in their game. No wonder they're killing it. And if I can just, I have to pay for their time, in a sense. I have to make the sacrifice. I may have to go to another city and spend that money on travel, you know, go with them, and you know, we're going to buy food together. We're going to do something together, go to that gym. But that's worth it. That's money well spent.
Absolutely. Observing how they live their life. And, you know, you mentioned you have mentors in different disciplines. You know, someone who's dedicated their entire life to sports and fitness. That's what they do. They eat fitness, they breathe fitness, they live fitness. You know, that's somebody that you want to learn from, because they've dedicated their whole life to it. Someone else might be a world-renowned public speaker.
Yeah.
And all they do is travel around the world, speaking in front of large crowds. Jim Rohn was somebody that, I really looked up to in that regards, because he had crowds of 5,000, 10,000. And he was such an articulate and charismatic speaker. And he dedicated his whole life to that.
Yeah.
So if I want to improve my public speaking, I need to learn as much as possible from someone like Jim Rohn. But I absolutely agree. I mean, if it's someone that you can see physically, who's not far from you, just watching how they do everything. I pay attention to the little details. How do they dress? How do they stand, their posture? When they speak, what's their tonality like? Just minor details, their handshake even. There's so many things that you can learn from different people. And if they're right next to you, it really helps, because then you can ask the questions that you really want the answers to. Obviously, seeing someone on a YouTube channel or listening to someone on an audiobook, you get a lot of general information.
Yeah.
But as we established earlier, when you pay, or when you're around someone physically and you pay for their specialist knowledge, you get exactly what you need at that right time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different ball game. For example, I might, there's a friend of mine, he's a PT as well. He's more my friend. And, if I'm going to eat something, if I look at my call list, I would have called him at least 2-3 times today. I'll say to him, I've had 200 grams of protein today. And he'd be like, I've had 250 and I've got 2 more meals to go. But then if I say the same thing to my wife or my mum, they'll be like, you're crazy. Why would you do that? So it's a whole different ball game. I might say to one of my business partners, I've got this much crypto. Things are going really well. And he goes, and he'll just top it by, not in an ego way. He'll be like, dream bigger, do bigger. And he goes, that's nothing. But if I say it to somebody else, like a friend from the area, he might be like, oh my God.
That's insane.
That's insane. But the thing is, because you're around people who have what it is that you want in a different level. See, at the time, I may have wanted things that people have at the certain level. When you hit it, then you got to grow with those goals as well. What is it? Les Brown says there's nothing worse than having a goal so small that you end up hitting it. That's what most people do. They have a goal so small they end up hitting it and think, great. But you've got to have such a big goal. Not something that's just impossible to achieve, because then you'll get disheartened. But having a goal where someone's already got it and he's actually in your reach. You can you might get on a webinar with him. That's crucial. And if you have that person that you can learn from step of the way, then you can, like you said, you can ask questions you can't ask, Arnold Schwarzenegger doing a massive audio. He's not going to, unless, Arnold Schwarzenegger's come to Birmingham, by the way, in March, so I'm definitely going to see him. But you can't have that conversation with him. I mean, if you can, that's great. And that's what it is about, having the person who inspires you in that relevant field. So if I ask my PT about, food, he knows it, but I may not ask my PT about spirituality, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe that's not his area, which is fine. So everyone's got their own areas they excel in. I'm talking about finding the best in that area. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Jim Rohn used to say, obviously, when it comes to learning from mentors, don't be a follower, be a reader, read from different people and make up your own mind.
Yeah.
I like this, I like that, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to leave that. And as you mentioned, there's people that are successful in a variety of different disciplines, spirituality, business, fitness. So you definitely have to have a wide sort of approach to things. But in terms of, you mentioned goal setting.
Yeah.
That's a very, very big topic, which, is so important to learn more about, because as you mentioned, most people set really small goals because they're terrified of stretching.
Yeah. Or failure.
Exactly. How would you say someone could overcome that fear of setting big goals? Because I've always felt that setting big goals just makes me feel different a little bit, even if it's scary. I find myself doing more. But when you were around people that were doing really well financially, like the crypto guy you mentioned, who had a significantly higher amount of crypto than you, did that make you think, damn, I'm setting small goals here?
Absolutely. And that's what made me think or stretch much more, rather than give myself a pat on the back and think, oh, I've done so well. And I'm like, whoa, there's your mentor. And it's the way they come across as well. Some people might come across a little bit egotistical and say, well, that's nothing. It wasn't coming from that perspective. But in answer to your question, I think, one thing I learned from Kevin Trudeau, he goes, look, the first thing, even before goal setting, is, who do you listen to? And, he really put it into perspective, because, we've been on this journey, entrepreneurship, for quite a while, because I've known you from before as well. And the great thing is that we are learning from great people, but we're also getting better and better ourselves, and also the people that we're listening to. And I'll never forget, he said, Kevin Trudeau said that, you may go to these, for example, goal setting seminars, and they say, dream big, dream big. There's no, go for it. There's no limit. There's no cap, which is absolutely true. There's a caveat to that as well. If you have such a big goal and you actually don't believe you can achieve it, it can work really against you because it can be so far-fetched. And I love Kevin Trudeau for this because he said that there's different schools of thoughts who call it a different name, but it's all the same thing. So there's something called, short-term goals, mid-term, long-term. Kevin Trudeau calls it A-type goals, B-type goals, C-type goals. So I think it's having a perspective on all of them. So for example, initially, this is a great example actually. Kevin Trudeau says, right, let's write down some goals that people want. And people did it on the audio. They said, write down your goals. And they said, right, on all your goals, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your belief? 10 being it's 100% done, 1 being it's not likely to happen. Where is your belief that the goal you've written down is going to occur in 6 months? So they did that. And he goes, right, okay, let's go back to those dreams now. Have you got some 1s? They said, yeah. Have you got some 5s? They said, yeah. Have you got some 10s? So 10 being it's 100% going to happen, 1 being it's very unlikely. And he says the secret is focus on the 10s, the 0 to 6 months. He goes, the ones that you feel that this is going to happen. Now, people don't do that because they say, well, you've got to stretch out. Yeah, you do have to stretch out. But he was talking about a certain level of goals. So when I do this exercise as well with some of the people that we work with as well in business and other things, we write down goals and we say, write down the 0 to 6 month goal. Focus on that a bit more. Because when you give yourself a goal and you hit it, your belief and confidence goes up.
Yes.
I can hit the next goal. So I think goal setting is not to put a lid on it, but also have it in perspective. That because Kevin Trudeau says that, your goal, your wildest dreams, your big dreams, he says it will take 2 or 3 lifetimes for you to achieve them actually. And he goes, the problem is that we set these goals and then you wonder after 5 years or a decade that haven't come true. And you're like, well, does this stuff really work? So again, who do you listen to is crucial. But then when you have goal setting, that's why I'd rather have a person who I can speak to who's hit that goal, because then he can put it into a little bit more perspective. For example, I want a private jet. And if I speak to someone who has never got a private jet, they're going to have no clue, because they're going to think, well, you need to be super rich to have that. And that's the only way. Where someone has got to be like, wait a minute, do these steps. First of all, you may want to do X, you may want to do Y. And he's really going to, because if he's been where you've been, that's crucial. I'm not talking about the guy who, Elon Musk's son. If I told him how to get a private jet, well, he's the son of Elon Musk. So it's going to be, he's in a, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I'm not going to be able to resonate with him. But someone who's been where you've been, that's crucial. And I think having the short-term goals that you can hit, then having your mid-term and your long-term goals, and then you've got to kind of work with yourself, because everyone's got their own perspective on how to do this. For me, if I get a goal, I like to immediately write it down. And then that short-term goal, I'll put pictures and maybe the words of the goal around the house so I can see them. I'll put it on my phone screensaver.
Why is that important?
Because looking at your goals, it increases your belief. And then when you also look at your goals, it makes you take action, reminds you that, listen, you've got a goal. Because when we go out into the world and we do the things that we maybe need to do, maybe we've got a regular job, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or maybe we get caught up in, sometimes I get caught up in, family's quite young, got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, I get caught up in dad duties. Sometimes, when you've had lack of sleep, you kind of lose focus in what your goal is. Oh my God, let me remind myself of my goal. Let me see what it is. So it keeps me constantly on track. So like I've got a diet plan. And not so much of a diet plan, it's more of things to do and not to do. And I have to put it on the fridge. So every time I go to open that fridge,
you see it. Yeah.
So oh yeah, wait a minute. I'm not supposed to have all these carbs and fats, so things. So
that's
putting
powerful.
it around me, it really helps.
I fully agree with that. And I think, manifestation is a topic that's quite big as well. A lot of people talk about manifesting their goals. And, one thing that has helped me, and I'd love to know if it's helped you as well in any way, is going to places that make you feel uncomfortable. For example, the Rolls-Royce dealership.
Yes.
Now, when I was growing up, at the time I was probably around 13, 14, I remember we'd drive by the Mercedes dealership.
Yeah.
And I'd always tell my dad, can we go in? I just want to see what the cars are like.
Yeah.
And, you know, my first job was doing paper round.
Yeah.
And every weekend when I got paid, and I got paid £12 a week,
Yeah.
slavery, right?
Yeah.
But I'd always buy a Top Gear magazine or a What Car magazine. And I'd always flick through, wow, 575 horsepower, twin turbo, this, that, naturally aspirated. Like I was obsessed with cars since a young age. Yeah. And I just wanted to go and sit in them and just, you know, as a kid, just see what they were like. Because it felt like it was just so far away and so unrealistic. And obviously, I remember my dad saying, well, there's no point, you know, we can't afford it. So it would just be a waste of time. But as I got more into self-development and I started working, I wanted to do that. Yeah. And I did it because it changed how I felt about my goals and about my plans for the future. Because I saw it as, well, these cars are being produced. Someone is buying them. Yeah. You know, just recently, I think it was about 2 months ago, I went to the Rolls-Royce dealership in Mayfair. And, you know, just walking around. And I was dressed the part, you know me, right?
Absolutely.
You know, suited and booted, fragrances on point as well. And I do that because I respect myself, of course, but also I don't want to feel like it's me faking something. Yeah. But I don't like the phrase "fake it till you make it" because it implies that you have ulterior motives and everything. I'm a buyer. Yeah. I'm just waiting for the money to come. Yeah. You know, but you best believe when that deposit hits or when that business deal is concluded and I've got some spare money lying around, I will buy a Rolls Royce. Absolutely. So it's not me going there to waste anybody's time. No. It's me going there to preview what's coming. Exactly. And so when I walked around, I was like, oh, okay, this is the Phantom. And the Phantom is just a boat. It's enormous. I love that car. It's such an incredible car. Yeah. And the Cullinan as well, the 4x4. I even sat in the Spectre, which is their new fully electric Rolls-Royce, which makes sense for a brand like Rolls-Royce, to be fair, because it's the whole idea behind Rolls-Royce is it's silent. And so I just sat, I walked around and, you know, and I remember doing this as well 3 years ago. You know, just after things started opening up again during COVID, I remember speaking to a salesperson there who was there for like 30 years. And he told me we've never sold this many cars. Yeah. And this was during the height of COVID where people were struggling, businesses were closing down. And I was like, out of interest, you know, how comes? You know, how comes this is your best ever year? You know, I was a bit confused by that. He just said, well, people are making a lot of money in these times. And, you know, we've had people come in and buy 3 or 4 in one go, just in one payment. And I was like, wow. And that made me believe more when it came to opportunities and money. There's no shortage. You know, when you watch the news and it's always scaremongering and, oh my God, you know, recession, you know, cost of living crisis. And if you're not careful, that can reprogram you to be fearful.
I don't watch the news ever. So I don't read the papers, never.
Yeah. Would you agree? There's a lot of scaremongering when you open the news.
Scarcity is, I mean, maybe it's the way they sell news, fine. But I just found it, I mean, Jim Rohn says, you know, before he used to go to work and before he got to work, he used to read about muggers, robbers and inflation.
Murders and all sorts of stuff, yeah.
And can you imagine what kind of day I had after that?
Yeah.
And, you know, we may not immediately read that news and become, you know, it may not affect us, but he's talking about the course of years. And that does take effect on us. It fills us with what's going on and what is being presented to us. Yeah. But in answer to your question, absolutely. I think, you know, one of the phrases that I love is not fake it till you make it, but faith it till you make it.
Oh, that's powerful. Write that down, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I was like, yeah, faith it
till you make it. I'm going to steal that one.
I love that. And, you know, I think going to the dealership and going to experience, because, you know, one of my mentors said that, you know, we get belief comes by our senses, our 5 senses. So when you go to the dealership, for example, and you touch, you know, the leather, you smell the fragrances, you know, touch, smell, taste, all those are activated and your belief goes up that, you know what, one day I could get this car. And I remember, like, you know, like yourself as well, just doing crazy things. I think we shared one just before we started the podcast, and me and my wife, you know, we go to, I remember doing this like years ago. We'll be in central London and I would actually type into Google the most expensive restaurant in London.
Oh, wow.
And maybe I'll go there. Maybe I can't afford the meal. So I just go for a coffee. Yeah. And sometimes the coffee was so bad and I just have to go there and just walk through or just sit down. Why? Because I just want to experience it.
You want to be there.
I want to be there,
the environment.
And then the time came when we'll go there and we'll actually have the meal there. So, and then that time came. So it's you know, you just, you know, one day I just, I saw one of my old, a dream list. It said on there 2014. And it was just amazing to see, oh my God, I can tick some of these dreams were just really out there, which I'm, pursuing. But quite a lot of them I could tick off. I want to have this much money in the bank. And when you got it, like, wow, I want to have this car. And I've got it. It's like, wow, So it's incredible how, actually one thing that happened to me, and it may be for someone who's feeling like I felt. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest challenges I had when I came in was because I was a trainee lawyer. My ego was, I'm a lawyer. Fine. But then I realized one thing. I was like, these people, the mentors, they have what it is that I want. And they're asking me to do certain things. So I never forget when the mentors said to me, go and visit those homes, go look at that car, go experience X, Y, and Z. I was thinking, like you said, I'm going to waste the time of those sales representatives. But I said, you know what? These people have what it is that I want. Let me just listen to them. Mm. So I remember going to see, it was a £5 million house. Me and my wife went to see it, and the estate agent said, can you please prove to us that you have the funds to buy this house? So me being Indian, I phoned my Indian accountant and I said, listen, I need a documentation that I'm worth 5 mil or something. Yeah. He goes, no problem. He emailed me something. I forwarded it on. I go, there you go. They go, come and see the house.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I love that house. It used to belong to a director. It was actually in Hertfordshire.
Okay.
A helipad. To get from one side of the house to the other, you had to go through so many rooms.
Wow.
It had a swimming pool with a bar in the middle. It had a cinema room. It had a tennis court. It had a basketball court. The person who was showing us to it said, listen, the best thing to do with this house is to rent it out for weddings. Their garden wasn't a garden. It was a park. Wow. I don't know how many acres it was. He goes, you need a gardener here.
Oh, you need, just to run the place.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, I went into their... they had it was old school house. They had servant quarters and the cleaners were living there. Even that house was nice. I was like, wow. And next to it, they had this garage, which was the size of my house. The garage was the size of my house now.
Wow.
And it had a Ferrari and a Tesla in there. And I was like, and just it's in my head. It's so strongly imprinted in there that there is no doubt in my mind that I will buy a house like that one day. There is no doubt. The only issue is time. The only thing that's going to take is time.
Yep.
So, patience is power. I've always learned that. I've heard that patience is power. And if I didn't go to do, and like yourself, we didn't go to do those things, where would our belief be? It would be so far out there that forget believing that we wouldn't even consider doing it.
Yeah.
And then would impart that to our future generations. They'll get influenced by, limitations. So I think stretching, going a bit crazy, and you may do it the way I did it, which is thinking, well, I don't believe in this airy-fairy stuff, but seeing is believing, which I don't believe, but at the time, my mentors got it, and if you're telling me to do that, then so be it. Let me drop my ego, and let me just do what he's saying.
Well, that's what it is. It's about being coachable and teachable.
Yes.
And I believe this is something that Kevin Trudeau speaks about this quite a lot, doesn't he?
Big time, yeah.
The whole teachability index. And, I think a lot of people just closed off. No, it's too expensive. No one's done it ever in my family. There's no point of even entertaining that conversation. But, an activity such as going to a £5 million home or a Rolls Royce dealership, it does something to the chemicals in your body. Because when you sit in a Rolls Royce and you're just holding the steering wheel and you can't hear nothing outside, you're almost cocooned in like a machine of absolute luxury. And it doesn't get any better than that. And you're just sat there with your own thoughts. The only thing you can hear is yourself breathing. And you're like, wow, someone's going to buy this. Someone is. This is being made. And if another human being who eats, sleeps, breathes can do this, why can't I do this? They're human beings.
I believe that 100%.
And look, goals such as taking humanity to Mars may be far-fetched for the majority of people. Doing something that impacts 1 billion lives, right? Like Elon Musk is doing right now, and obviously Jeff Bezos. Yeah. However, working on a business that can make you a couple mil a year, 3 mil a year, that shouldn't be outrageous. There are more and more millionaires today than ever before. And obviously we touched on how the world's changed right now, and obviously technology has opened up way more doors than we had 20 years ago. The last year has been incredibly transformative in terms of AI. I use a tool right now for my YouTube Shorts and my TikTok that will take this entire podcast, compress it into 50 to 100 clips, choose a title for me, rank them in order of what could go viral the most out of 100. And that has saved me hours every week of editing. And there's AI tools now like ChatGPT, and you know, you must enjoy using it for law, right?
Yeah, I tell my clients to use. I go, listen, they want to write a letter. I go, use ChatGPT and then maybe rejig it into a little bit, kind of tone it down.
Yeah,
just in case, because that is an incredible tool.
It's powerful.
But yeah, with things like ChatGPT or other AI, a lot of jobs, degrees that you're studying for may be in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And it could actually be, unfortunately, a waste of money. But going to university, the experience for me was just incredible. But now we have to, I think Bob Proctor says that, people are getting equipped for a world that will no longer exist, in a sense of,
that's powerful.
Whatever the industry is, because that industry may demand something completely different. So we have to keep up with, the times. I mean, however people feel about, social media. I mean, I'm working with one of my business partner who's a lawyer. He's old school, and he has to. I mean, he types like this, but he's doing it because he's got no choice. Yeah. So either you're going to get with the times, or unfortunately, you're going to get left behind.
Absolutely, and I know it's scary for a lot of people. It's unfamiliar. Anything that's new will make you feel a little bit anxious. But it's just that. It's just new. It's not difficult. I had to work on what I was saying over the years, because I found myself saying things that were limiting, like, oh, I can't afford that, or this is difficult. It's not difficult, it's just unfamiliar, it's new. Yeah. So that means once you get familiar with it, it will no longer be difficult. And it wasn't difficult to begin with, it was just new. Yeah. For someone who's a pilot of a plane, I mean, him going into the aircraft every day and operating it is second nature. Yep. Unconscious competence, right? Yep. He does it without even thinking about it. But for someone like you and me who haven't ever flown a commercial aircraft, we walk in to the cabin and we're like, oh, there's like 1,000 buttons in here. Yep. What do we do, right? Yep. Even the world of podcasting, all these interfaces that I have, when I first got these pieces of equipment, I was like, how on earth am I going to use that?
Yeah, that's how I feel now.
Yeah, exactly. It's confusing. And this mic as well. And, there's so many things that go into it. And actually, funny enough, me and Vinay recorded this podcast a couple of days ago, but there was an error with the camera, and it cut off after half an hour. So thank you so much for coming down again. Like I said, so nice, Ali, we had to do it twice.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure speaking to you, and I love the the energy and the synergy here, because we're all the same school of thought. We want to learn, want to grow, and we have that spirit. So being around people who are alike is crucial.
Oh, absolutely. And I really do definitely enjoy having these conversations, because every time I do, I learn something. And I always love rewatching my own podcasts, not because I like hearing my own voice, but because I'm like, wow, he said something right there. Yeah. That was so powerful, and I make a note of that. And obviously, just from speaking to you now, I mean, I've already made some mental notes in my mind that I will rewatch again, like "Faith It Till You Make It." That's one I'm going to steal. Yeah. It came from Vinay, so I don't want to take credit for that. But it's going back to what we were saying about the world rapidly evolving. It's incredible what's happened nowadays, and I think it's a damn shame to not try. We live in the golden era to be an entrepreneur, to make money online. There are people making $30,000 a month selling woodworks on Etsy. Yeah. Coffee tables, side cabinets, even things like this horse behind me right here. I mean, someone's making that. Yeah. Someone's getting rich off that. And I think even the, what do they call them? The floaty things in the swimming pools.
Floats,
is that what they call it? Yeah. I mean, someone became a millionaire from that. It's crazy. People are becoming rich from, daft ideas, stupid ideas, but I mean, even if it's a dumb idea that has no real world value, if the brand is strong enough, people will buy it. Yeah. We look at some celebrities that the majority of people will say have no talent. I would disagree. They do have a talent. They can command attention and keep it. Yeah. And attention is the new currency.
Biggest currency.
In any business. I mean, what do you think of that? Obviously, as an entrepreneur yourself, it's very important that you go out there and get new attention around your product and service. Yes. What are your thoughts on the attention economy?
Yeah, well, as Gary Vee says, isn't it? It's the attention is the biggest, because every person, from a certain age, I think he said, if I could buy attention, or get the user's attention from age of 18 to 35, I'll spend more money to get it. Because every person within that age is usually on their phone. So, and it may be getting their attention geared towards your product or service. And there's ways of doing that. But again, Finding someone who has done that, finding someone who can do that, you know, and listening to them is crucial. And, you know, going back to what you said about things being done in certain times. So, for example, the Rolls-Royce dealership having sold more Rolls-Royces at that particular time, COVID. You know, times are always going to be the same, as Jim Rohn says. It's not the times, it's not the economy, it's not the political circumstances, it's our attitude. And I don't forget, when I was doing criminal law, actually, when I was studying to qualify, the lawyers were saying, it's going down the drain, you know, there's so many cutbacks, which were, maybe they were true. But I just had this attitude, which I learnt from the company where I made no money in, that you've got to have a positive mental attitude. And I thought to myself, well, why don't I just do what they are not doing? For example, a lot of them worked for a firm 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and they were getting a percentage. But I thought, if I just do freelance work only, and then I'll never forget, I remember I used to write to 10 firms a day. I used to email them every single day. And I used to do a bit of freelance work. The only problem was you get paid for freelance work more. But the problem is getting the freelance work was hard. And on top of that, everyone's saying is get out of this profession. But I never forget, one time I had a firm come back to me and said, we've got a large amount of work, as long as you're willing to travel. And I said, I'm willing to travel. And within a few months, I started making 6 figures. I was making 3 or 4 more times than my colleagues and co-workers. And in a time where everyone's saying it's scarce and it's bad, you need to get out, I made the most money I'd ever made. I don't forget, my accountant goes, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? You know, and I said, oh man, you got to grow, you got to learn about, you know, the things that we've talked about. I mean, it's hard to kind of condense it in a sentence to your accountant. But in times of like scarcity or obstacles or recession, I'm sometimes actually happy about, I'm like, oh my God, there's gonna be big opportunities here. And it could be with one of the products in here, wherever there's a demand for it, there's a niche, there's something that people want. And, you know, you could be that person, be that bridge. And there's, I mean, Ali, we know there's things online, you know, there's drop shipping, there's stocks and shares, there's Forex, there's, you know, all kinds of e-commerce stuff. There are things out there, but we got to be looking for it. We got to be willing to kind of take a step. And, you know, it doesn't mean you have to go and, you know, run to the nearest call. It starts with maybe a Google search. It starts with maybe a friend knowing a friend knowing a friend in that certain space. So it's just keeping your eyes and your heart just open. Your ego down, you're willing to listen and learn. And, you know, I went to, because we moved recently, I went to the old property to collect some letters. And the person was packaging something. I'm like, what do you do? He goes, I sell whatever's trending. Oh, that's really good. And then he showed me the house, because obviously we had the house and but he was doing extra work on it. I mean, the whole house was almost, you know, the garden was getting renovated. He's putting a fish pond in there and it's underneath the floor. And I was like, wow, he's doing all this. And he goes, yeah, whatever. He goes, because I had a shed at the back, which we made. And he goes, I've turned that all into like a warehouse. All my products are there. And I was thinking, this guy is a very good entrepreneur. So yeah, it's about trending with the times. And AI technology, it's here, basically.
Absolutely. I fully agree. I mean, there's a cycle that always repeats itself when it comes to empires and economies. And, you know, you have ups and then you have downs. And obviously, Jim Rohn spoke about this when he met a few company executives. I think it was for Shell or whoever it was that he was seeing at the time. And they asked him, you know, Jim, you're very experienced. You know, you've been around the world. You have a lot of knowledge. You know, tell us what the next 10 years would look like. And I remember he said it in such a funny way. He said, gentlemen, I do have a lot of experience. I have been around the world. And I can tell you from my vast experience that the next 10 years will look exactly the same as the last 10. And they were like, oh, what do you mean by that? You know, and obviously he went into explaining how, you know, no matter who is in power, democratically speaking, you know, no matter what the taxes are like, there are going to be groups of people that take advantage. And there's going to be those that complain and wait until a new group goes into power or taxes are lowered before they begin. And so really the one phrase that stuck with me is take advantage. Because some opportunities are here today, gone tomorrow. You know, when it comes to content creation, a lot of people started YouTube channels during COVID. And if there's one thing I wish I did was start earlier. I had a YouTube channel. Well, this channel I've had for about 8 years. And I remember recording a video in 2015? 2015.
Oh, wow.
When I had no beard, I was really short. And I just remember thinking, what if I would have stuck with making videos for 8 years straight. I mean, who knows? And I'm not the kind to regret, but there are windows. I mean, there are people, because everyone was at home during COVID, right? And so everyone was on YouTube. So channels were skyrocketing. People wanted new entertainment, new perspectives, new information. And it's the same thing when it comes to crypto. I mean, how many people do you know that made vast amounts of money from investing in the right crypto, just because they were there? You know, luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
That's right.
They had a bit of money. There was an opportunity. They were prepared to take it, and they did.
Exactly.
And now their lives are completely different. And as Jay-Z says, right, you only have to be right once. You know, and I always say to people that are aspiring content creators, you're one video away. From everything changing. There was a YouTuber recently that I saw who went from 20,000 subscribers to 80,000 from one video.
It's incredible.
You know, and everything can change. Brands can start reaching out to you. Hey, we've seen that you're creating a lot of momentum right now around a specific subject. We'd love to have a chat with you. And I've had many brands come to me with you know, exciting proposals as well over the last few months. And so I always tell people, be optimistic for the future, embrace the uncertainty, let it excite you, and go out there with an approach of, you know what, it will take as long as it needs to take. I'm not going to worry about how long it will take. I actually learned this from Les Brown. He said, it will happen when it happens. And that stuck with me, because I was the kind of person who for so long was worried about how long it would take. But what if, Ali, what if you start now, you're 20, and then it takes you 7 years, and then you still don't make it? You know, and this is before I took the first step. I'll be having these conversations with myself. And then I realized, stop having these conversations with yourself. In fact, I did a coaching call earlier with a guy that I've been working with in the US, and he had a great start to the year, and then he said that recently, you know, over the last few days, he's been doubting himself again. And I said to him, listen, the old you is coming back. The old you is trying to drag the new you down. And I told him, and I compared it to having a podcast with the old you. I said, don't sit there and have a podcast with the old you, because the old you will just be sharing limiting information with you, trying to drag you down, saying, oh, come on, really? You think you could do this? Look at you now. You know, you're not that kind of guy. You know, your family has never made this much money before. Why are you pursuing something like this? So I told him, hey, don't have a podcast with the old you. Keep engaging in these productive habits. It will take as long as it needs to. But remember, at the back of your mind, you're one video away. You know, you're one business deal away from everything changing, one person away from your whole life changing. So I'd love to know, I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, from your experience in entrepreneurship, have you ever had a particular event, a soul event happen where you're like, wow, that changed everything for me? Well,
it's a series of events. You know, one of my mentors said that leaders are born at events. And leaders meaning, you know, when we talk about leadership, we're not talking about, you may not have a company or, you know, people following you in that sense, but leading is about leading yourself. So the first person you need to lead is yourself. And leaders are born at events. So those kind of epiphany or aha moments, they've happened across multiple events. But going back to what you were saying before that even was patience. I've always had the attitude, I want it and I want it now. That is it. Patience, I don't know. No, I've been the very most impatient person. And I love because I was thinking about actually, because I've got tattoos, but not visual, especially being a lawyer. If I go into the courtroom, I didn't want to have that kind of, you know, image of me. But Justin Bieber, I think, has a tattoo here, which I think looks really good, and I'd love to get that tattoo. It says patience on it. So patience is power. And when I stopped worrying about being, you know, when is it coming? When is it coming? When is it coming? When I stopped worrying about it, or thinking about it, or complaining about it, it started to feel it came in quicker. So having patience is so crucial. And I think my mentors were telling me about patience and you know, having, you know, patience is the multiplier. One of my mentors said, patience is the multiplier. Because the alternative is you think, you set a goal, it's not coming in, and after 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever years, you think, you know what, this is not happening. So you go back to your old ways. And that person that you said you were coaching, you know, that is a conversation that you have with ourselves all the time, isn't it? That's why Jim Rohn says you've got to stand guard at your thoughts, stand guard. I know he puts it into a different concept with coffee. You know, be careful of your coffee. Someone might put,
watch your coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Watch your coffee. So you've got to stand guard, because when these things happen, I mean, I literally drown myself in audios. I mean, I probably listen to, I don't know, 5-6 hours of audios a day without even trying, because I wake up to audios. I'm making breakfast, audios in the car, wherever I'm going, audio. If I'm going to the gym, half an hour to get to the gym, 1 hour at the gym, half an hour back. So that's a good 2-hour audio there. And then just throughout the day. So I'm constantly feeding myself, not the old me, the new me, the new stuff that I need to be, the person that I aspire to be. So having patience, and then on top of that, not reverting back to your old self.
Yeah.
I mean, something happened this morning actually, where I was at my religious center, and something happened where I had to go around a long way to get back into the religious center, and it took about 5-10 seconds, and I was upset. I was like, why do I have to do this again? I've done the process or whatever. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm of the belief that everything happens for the best. Everything happens for a reason. But it took 10 seconds for me to come out of that zone. And I was thinking, because the old me, that would have been carried on for a continuation of me telling the whole world, then me trying to get back at that person, maybe subconsciously or whatever, maybe lasting a week or two. But it lasted 10 seconds. And I was upset with myself thinking, why did it last 10 seconds? That should have lasted 1 second and job done, and that's it. And then I thought to myself, and then I had like an internal battle for 10 seconds. And then finally it came around and I was just happy again. And I was thinking, okay, good. The new me's come back, the person that I want to be. So it's a constant kind of, I want to say struggle. It gets easier as you go along, as you know. Initially it's very hard because you keep reverting back to your old self. But once you start doing, especially like I said, what works for me, and it may work for people on this audio, is audios, because they're so easy. I mean, you get in the car, you press play or whatever, you press on your phone or something. But if I have to read a book, that will take a little bit of, the kids, okay, what time is it? Am I tired? I'll have to open the book, and I can't do it while I'm driving. So audios has been crucial, but my kind of moments, which have really just changed, my whole perspective, hasn't come necessarily from a one audio. I mean, I've got audios I've listened to 20 or 30 times, and I still listen to the same audios again. And I've been to probably 9 or 10 international conventions. And Kevin Trudeau said one thing. He said that when you attend conventions, especially the international ones, Kevin Trudeau made a very bold statement. And, to make this statement on an audio is incredible. He said, if you attend 20 international conventions, or you listen to 1,000 hours of audios, I can guarantee that you'll be earning $250,000 a year. And I was thinking to myself, that's a very bold statement. Are you saying that if I attend 20, I mean, that was the emphasis more, international conventions on your particular industry or whatever the company that is, that you can guarantee it? This is crazy. And I only heard it after, because when I put it two and together, I was like, wait a minute. I haven't attended 20. I've attended less than that, but I have hit that figure. In a year, I have hit that figure. So I was thinking, oh my God, it's so true. And he talks about international conventions because he goes, when you go to an international convention, after you've gone to the event, you're not going home. You're going to the hotel where other people who are at that event have been there. You're going into the same energy, into the same atmosphere, and you're going to have conversations about the event. And the next day, it needs to be more than a one-day event. So those are the big times which have given me. I remember going and talking about, making bad decisions. I remember there was a car. It was a Chrysler 300C.
Oh, they're bad boys. Yeah.
Ali, when I got that car, I thought I was driving around in a Bentley. Yeah. And even though it was a cheap man's Bentley, if people want to say that to me, but I didn't care. For me, it was a Bentley. Right? And I remember I had to sell it because I was going to Hong Kong for a convention, for an event actually. And I never forget, I just sold it that same day, and then the flight was the afternoon. And I remember going to Hong Kong and I had £50, and I had to get through like a 3-4 day convention. Lucky I had some great mentors there who were paying for everything. Otherwise, I think getting from the airport to the hotel cost me. But, you kind of had to go on faith that something's going to happen. But I had to get to that convention. Yeah. And then not only for that, I've been to conventions in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in America, and different parts of Europe. And I'll tell you, each one of them just have been... Like, I've gone to a convention, I've heard something, and I'm almost in tears because it's hit me so much. So I think international conventions, I mean, if you can't get to international, go to the national, go to an event.
Yeah. Because the energy is completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, Kevin Trudeau talks about this triangular effect where he says, you have audios, you have books, and you have events. And he goes, what people do is overdose on one of them. He goes, you can't do that. You need to do all of them to get what you want. And I was thinking to myself, wow, because sometimes there are periods for months where I don't read. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to start reading.
That's powerful. That is, I've never looked at it in that way. That's a game-changing philosophy, the triangle, because sometimes you focus so much on one area.
Yeah.
But then, for example, if you're learning how to trade and, you've been, reading a book on it, but then now you start hanging around people that are successful traders, it's a different experience. It's like, wow, so you've done this successfully for how long? Wow, this and this. It's completely eye-opening. So that's powerful, that is. And I do definitely agree when you venture out, I think it's leaving the comfort zone of your hometown.
Yes.
You're going on almost a sacred trip.
Yeah.
To change who you are, and you respect yourself in the process, because you could have very easily sat at home and just told yourself, well, I'll just watch a few YouTube videos, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I'll save money.
Yeah, I'll save money. And look, forget why you're going there to begin with. Just going to a different place. Yeah. Seeing different people, listening to a different language, seeing how differently the world works, in a different part of the world. Hong Kong must have been a crazy experience, going from London to Hong Kong and just seeing how everything's so dense and packed, and people are very different. They communicate very differently. I mean, what was that like?
Well, first of all, when I got out there, I learned that one of the early Batmans were filmed there.
Oh, wow.
Because the building structures and the way it looks. And when you're there, you're in a whole new world. I mean, just the way it's very, fast paced, and there's a lot of businesses there. And it's, I mean, when I went there, I remember I was going to a place called LKF, and anyone who's Hong Kong will know LKF is all the nightclubs are and stuff. And I remember going in there and just the experience, because my mentor was like a big shot out there. And everywhere we went to was like, that guy who gave his name, that's it, we were in. It was just crazy. So not only did, the business aspect is one aspect, but you're right, just broadening your horizon and going on a holiday, in a sense. It was a holiday as well, because I looked at it as a holiday. I know it was expensive and getting out there, but what it gave me was just an incredible experience. And I'll never forget one time when we were there was marches going on for someone called Li Ka-shing. For those who don't know Li Ka-shing, they called him the Superman of Hong Kong, because he earns 0.36 cents on anything, whether it be energy, electricity, anything in Hong Kong that goes on, he earns 0.36% of it. I remember my mentor was telling me that. So they called him Superman because he was so rich. Wow. And the people were like, but they're not happy. Wow. And they were holding protests and marches going around that time.
Yeah.
So it was, you experience all these things. But, it's not even from a business sense. Me and my wife, before we got married, we went to 2 weddings abroad. It was too extreme. One was in Vienna, where it was no expenses spared. It was like in a castle. It was so amazing. And then we had a wedding in Cyprus where there were only like 20 people there. So it's 2 extremes. And we had a great time on both weddings. And we decided to get married abroad. And I'll never forget, when we got married, there's only like less than 100 people at the wedding, because everyone's like moaning and saying, we're going to go abroad. But the people who came to our wedding, some of my family members today said, yours was the best wedding we've ever been to. Not because it was such a great wedding. It was in Marbella. Oh, nice. In Spain on the beach. But not because it was the best wedding. It was only because of the experience. Yeah. Because when you're going abroad, after you've gone to your wedding functions, you're not going back home, are you? Yeah. You're going back to the hotel, you're going to go to the beach, or you're going to go to the spa tomorrow, or you're going to be with your family. So from a business perspective, that's one thing. It was from, going to 2 different weddings abroad in Vienna and Cyprus. We were like, this is the best wedding we've ever been to in our life. Yeah. Because you are abroad and, like you said, you're out of your comfort zone. So I highly recommend, broadening your horizon. Business is one side. There's so many, I met my wife actually on the plane going to Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
So, when we talk about, if we're looking at a business perspective, or you want to grow in, your company or finance, that's one thing. I found love.
Exactly.
There's so many aspects to it.
That's powerful. That's powerful stuff right there. I'm a big believer that, all of the great experiences are outside of your comfort zone. When you travel, when you go beyond, the girl of your dreams, she could be in the next flight that you take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's incredible to see and to hear about as well. And, in terms of 2024, for anyone watching this right now, thinking of how they could have their best year yet, what pieces of advice would you share with them? Because a lot of people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's a lot of discussions going on around this year being such a transformative year in terms of politics, economies. There's so many. I think it's the year with the most amount of elections in recent times. The UK is having election. The US is having election. I mean, so many countries are having elections. A lot of people are nervous about what the future holds. But what would you advise someone who's listening to this podcast on when it comes to having their best year?
Well, first of all, there's no time like today. That is one thing you just have to put into your mind and accept it. Forget everything that's going on. You're here now. I think one of the quotes is, you are the youngest you'll ever be. I can't even say it right now, but the age you are now, you're not going to get any younger. So it's about taking action of some sort. Now, I'm not saying, if you're looking to do something, find the best where he or she may be so out of reach. For example, I want to be a footballer. Okay. Well, Ronaldo is not going to come and mentor me. I can listen to his podcast and I can get inspiration and motivation from him. But I may need to go to my area and find out who's semi-pro. Because the pro may not speak, but the semi-pro will. And I'm not even semi-pro yet. So I may need to get to him first. And I may use Ronaldo as inspiration. Ronaldo might be free because his podcast or whatever he's said, everything's on there. But the semi-pro guy, he's probably going to be my next best bet. So I will take advice from him. I will listen to him. There's a good chance that I'm able to sit down with him and listen to everything he has to say. And then the next stage might be that there is a professional and there's tryouts or there's a course that will cost X amount. And I would say put yourself out there, because whatever you're doing, if it's not scaring you, you're not going to be growing. So you're going to have to put something in you to go out there. And that might be your own, wherever you're, my time when I went to Hong Kong, my limit was paying, 500 to 1,000 just to get out of the country. I hit my limit because I had to sell my car to do that. When I got back, I didn't know what was going to happen, but that was my limit then. Then my limit increased. Then it went into, a few thousand. I spent over 20,000 on a course. So your limits will increase, but it's about getting out of your comfort zone. So whatever decision you're going to take, find someone and listen to that person who has what it is that you want. Next, write down an action plan. Might be just you on a piece of paper, writing down some goals, saying this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish. And then go out there and just do it. There is, to be honest, with the resources and the technology that we have, there is no lack of information. It's all out there. The only thing that's lacking is our ability to take an action because we're scared. We're scared of our ability, or we're scared about what others may think of us. That was one of my biggest things. Because when I was doing it, they were like, you're a lawyer, why are you doing network marketing? And I was thinking, why can't you see what I see? But it's not about them seeing what I can see. It's about me believing in what I can see and putting it so deep down me, ingraining it in me. So it's a process. So I think I've learned more than being around people who have what it is that I want, more than any audio book or event, because it starts from there. And like we were talking about the triangular effect, we need all those things. But it starts from us making a decision that 2024 is going to be a year unlike any other year that we've had. Forget what's going on in the world. This is where we are. This is the one life that we have. Let's go all out and make it count and have no regrets. Because what else is there? You'll just be doing the same thing that you've been doing and you'll be getting the same results.
Wow. That is powerful stuff right there. Thank you so much for sharing that, Vinay. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this podcast has been jam-packed with incredible nuggets. Hopefully, as you're listening to this, you've learned something very valuable. Hopefully, you've taken some notes as well. We always say note takers are money makers. I always have people listening to the podcast either in the gym or as they're driving. So there's people from different parts of the world tuning in and listening in whilst they're doing many different things. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into this podcast. I'm going to drop all of Vinay's details down in the description below so you can find him on social media. Vinay, thank you so much for coming down and for sharing all of this valuable wisdom with us.
Thank you.
I've learned a great deal.
I've learned a great deal.
And we'll definitely do a repeat of this as well at some point again.
I look forward to it.
I look forward to having you again very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for watching. Make sure you comment. Let us know what you what you enjoyed listening to today on today's podcast. What was the most valuable insight? Make sure that you like this video as well, and consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Vinay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for coming down.